It maybe need to change a little bit. There almost always is a shift of some sort necessary. And only after we've done all of those will the final thing happen, which is people begin to retake a sense of ownership and self-accountability. And that's really the key here. The key that pushes an organization into predictable success from either side, from either Whitewater or Treadmill, is when people, individuals throughout the organization, start to retake a sense of ownership and a sense of self-accountability. And they begin to show initiative, creativity, push against things, take considered, controlled risks. But you can't train this. And I hope I'm not going to offend anybody, because I know there's some trainers in the place, all in particular, you can hit me later. My heart sinks when I see people calling in folks to give their people training on ownership and self-accountability. Because the thing is, you can't make people take accountability. It's a state of mind. It's an attitude that people will give to you. This is assuming you've hired the right people. If you haven't hired the right people, you've got bigger problems, which we can talk about at another time. But assuming you've got good people, they will only respond by taking ownership and self-accountability if they can clearly see that you've got this thing back on track. So they need to see you've got a machine for decision making, that the managers are working laterally well together, that they, individuals in the organization, are being involved cross-functionally in the decision making, that's got reasonable materiality. They're being allowed to implement things that are reasonably material. They're not just being asked to work out what the Christmas party's going to be like this year. That they're now all aligned around a renewed vision. Then you get self-accountability and ownership. It's reignited in the organization. And it's that pushes the business forward into predictable success. Does that make sense? I know this is crushingly mundane, which is why it's in the second half of the book. And when people tell me they've read the book, I know they meant they've read the first half. Because the second half is all about that crushingly mundane stuff that you have to do. Now, can you imagine of our V's, O's, and P's who least like to sit through all of this? Well, probably the V's and O's equally dislike it, but which one doesn't have to if they don't want to? It's the V's. And part of the problem often here is that V's are often where the equity of the business resides, and they've got the authority and ability to just bail. And sometimes they'll do that. We'll get part of the way down this and they'll just bail. That's it, it's fine, I like it, I like where you're going, really enjoy this, backing out of the room, okay? Just tell me what you come up with, I'm 100% for it. But here's the thing about V's. V's are like, there's a theory, I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard that if a baby bear cub gets touched by humans, the mama bear cub won't have anything to do with it because it smells of human, and the bear cub will die because it'll never get fed and won't get any maternal, whatever maternals do. Can't finish the sentence. These are sort of the opposite. They really can't abide anything unless it's got a smear of their DNA on it. They really can't just say, that's fine, do it. They'll say, that's really fine, I really like that, I really like that, I really like that, but do that. I'm just spreading cold germs everywhere, right? I just realized you'd be worried. I think I'm past the stage of, transmitting. And so what will happen is the V's will absent themselves from this because it's so brain-numbingly mundane. And they'll say, you go ahead, you all do it. Then they'll come to their desk and they'll sit there. And either nothing will happen, or they'll just randomly pull some stuff and say, change this, do the other thing. And it doesn't really get the top-down, committed involvement that's required. And that's one of the reasons why sometimes, unfortunately, until the founder owner has cycled through this 3 or 4 times, and it's just been so painful, because eventually you're going to lose your P, you're going to go back to fun again, the business is going to decline for a few years, you come back up, you do it all again. It's not until eventually that the V says, look, this hurts so bad, being in this situation, that I'm prepared to put up with the pain of fixing it. I get it. I've got to sit through this, and we've got to do it. And it's one reason why a structured way to get through Whitewater is a very helpful thing. Let me do we've probably got enough time just to pause for a minute or two. I'll do the treadmill back to predictable success 101, but Give me some comments or observations on this. Does it make sense? Have you seen any of this happen? Does this does it hang together for you?
Yes.
Yes. What sort of a response from 74 really intelligent, clever people is yes. I'm the one on death's door here. You're all perfectly well. Have any of you seen this, any aspects of this happen?
I've seen it all.
You've seen it all?
I've seen all of those.
You have?
Yeah.
So would you agree with me that getting that chronology is right? That trying to do it in the wrong order isn't, doesn't yield the result? All right, I'm going to give you a pass because it's 94 degrees outside.
A small company that has to transition from the owner that wants to put his DNA, her DNA on everything versus checking out the golf course. What's the in between that?
Well, the role is, the important thing is not really to try to strip any of that away. Because of all three of these types of person. By the way, I should make it clear, very few people are a cartoon just one thing, right? Very few people are just a big V or a big O or a big P. Some are. But if you only have one of these in your DNA, you're essentially a jerk. Most people have got, it's like any cartoon people, right? If you're just a big V, nothing else, if you can't speak any O, or you can't relate in any way to a P, not at all, then you are just a narcissist. It's just going to be somebody going around, blowing things up. And O, most people who are O's are big O, small P maybe. Big O, small B, something like that. There's a combination. If all you are is just an O and nothing else, and you don't talk any of the other languages, like remember fax machines when we used to listen to them, and you'd hear the call, and then the next one would answer, and it would go, and then it, that's a brilliant impersonation of a fax machine. These three need to be able to do a little of that with each other. As I said, V with none of it is an arsonist, and O with none of it is a maverick. That's somebody who just won't play. Just not playing. I'm going out there and I'm selling, or I'm going out there and I'm doing this, or I'm sitting in my lab and I'm doing this. I don't care about any of you. I don't want to know about any of you. And if you make me come to a meeting, I'm going to take a paper clip, I'll straighten it out, and I'll stab my eyes. Right? I'll do anything except sit in a meeting. That's what just an O with nothing else. And a P that can't talk any of these languages is a bureaucrat. That's an outright bureaucrat. That's somebody who just wants to sit and play with systems and processes and has no interest in making anything happen. So let's assume that we don't have any of those people. And by the way, they can't really exist in our transition to predictable success. One of the things it does is it squeezes out the cartoon characters. So let's say we've got folks who are predominantly one or other of these, but have got some other ability to interact. The role of the synergist role is not to try to take any of that away. So if you try to take from the big V, the ability or desire to put their print on something and just go from time to time, they will lose it and they'll go. They'll start a new business, or they'll sell out, or they'll do whatever. It's the ability to have them recognize, become self-aware about their behaviors, and to amend those behaviors on the few occasions when it's really important that we don't just, stroke our own desires. And the synergist role is really about saying, look, we're here for the next hour and 15 minutes, or whatever it is, for a monthly management meeting. We're going to hang our V or P hat on the door, and we're going to talk with the best benefit of the organization at heart. Now, part of that means structuring that hour and 15 minutes, for example. So you don't, for example, you don't want to ask the O or the V to write the agenda, because they're not going to do it. P will write the agenda. You want the O to write the action points, because they'll just give you like 3 to 5 things that you have to do. If you let the V come in and sit for the brainstorming session in the first 45 minutes, and then have them come back in the last 15 minutes, they can't go away for the whole meeting. They've got to come back and they get reported into and what's agreed, and then to sign off on it there and then or not. All sorts of mechanical things that you can do. Anything else on this? Before we do the treadmill bit?
I have a question real quick. How often do you see in that process, and how much time do you put in for, when do you see people exiting the company? In other words, if you can't get somebody that's in that lateral management or in alignment or empowering, when you go through that process, how often should we, be dismissing people out of that process?
O's that won't get on the bus here. We've already talked about that in the plenary session. That's the big problem here, are O's who build a lot of sweat equity. Everybody, people love and admire, but they become, dinosaurs. They will become dinosaurs if they try to stay within this environment. They don't like it, they don't want it, and they're not going to play. And they're typically closer to the maverick O with not a little else. Here is where the V's start to peel away, where V's really can't abide this at all, and it's often a point at which a V will do shoots and ladders thing and just go back and start again, start a new business, and leave the business without a V. P's, once they're in, will never leave. They'll stay there forever, so they're still here. They're the last out. And the remaining O's leave about here whenever the V's go, because they've got nothing to, activate against. Once the V goes, they're not getting their marching orders, because O's don't take marching orders from V's, they take them from V's. So what happens here is we lose some O's in the way up in here, but we have to do it, as painful as it needs to occur. If we're going to lose our big V, they'll go here, which is why it's important before that point that we've institutionalized V and put it throughout the organization. So when the big V goes, the business doesn't collapse. Here, once the big V goes, many of the historic O's that were around him or her will go, and the P's will cling on till, they'll be still in working for the receivers and the bankruptcy attorneys down here. A good P like me who's well trained to get their hooks into a business and never leave. Let's look real quickly at what happens to move an organization out of treadmill. I think I talked a bit about this at the plenary. The number one thing, if you think you've got a business in treadmill that you've got to change, is you've got to fix the flow of people into the organization. Any organization, I think this is page 16? Thank you. Any organization, its outputs are the sum of the decisions made by the people that work for that organization. So if you think about a large pool of people, and we're in a treadmill organization, hiring typically, if left to its own device, will amplify treadmill and push us towards the big rut, because we've got a bunch of P's who are hiring in more P's in order to be systems and process dominant. And we hire towards compliance. Will you comply? Can you comply? Do you have, it starts perfectly well. Do you have basic computer literacy skills? Which we didn't really ask in fun. We didn't ask anything. We liked you. You remind me of me. So I'll hire you, and any gaps you have in your skill set, I'll coach and mentor and train you, and we'll get there. And then we realize, we just can't keep doing that. We're going to have to hire people with basic literacy skills, computer literacy skills, because we don't have time to teach them how to use our software anymore. We've got to come in and use them, plug and play. So that's good. So what happens? We end up with a 15-hour, test that they've got to do for all sorts of stuff. And it's all about compliance. Can you comply? Can you comply? Can you comply? Now, there's nothing wrong with keeping compliance as part of the hiring when you're in treadmill, but you've got to add to it. Do you take initiative? Do you show initiative? Do you have creativity? Will you take a controlled risk? Because otherwise, all we're bringing in are more and more people on the P side, on the treadmill side, that amplifies. Two things that happen immediately once we bring people in is we've got to think about how we deploy them. In treadmill, what typically tends to have happened is that we've started putting people in a vertical ladder. They come in, they go here, and they move up like that. And as dead men's shoes, if you want to borrow that, so I want to make sure I put down the same two sides as you do. And what we've got to do is start moving people around, enforce 2-year SWIPs, so people move from one part of the organization to another, encourage job sharing, encourage people to go and take a sabbatical, for example, if they've been there for 4 or 5 years, get out and get a fresh pair of eyes, come back. Do things with our supply chain, swap people with our suppliers and our major customers. Anything to move people around and keep them moving a fresh pair of eyes, because the status quo is another amplifier of treadmill. Being in the same part of the organization and working that same systems and process rut over and over and over again, well, you get to depend on the systems and processes. You get pulled out of that rut, even if there are more systems and processes, but they're different ones. Then you're beginning to compare and contrast, and you're bringing a new, fresh set of eyes to that part of the organization. I love this one. Performance assessment is usually taking a grip on the organization at this point, despite the fact that everybody loathes it. and it's become essentially, by the time that we've reached treadmill, performance assessment essentially